Today, we're gonna talk a little bit about state of the game, because it was a bit more interesting than the usual. We got some sort of interview with a developer called Frederick Thailander, who is in control of the way that your character moves in the Division 2, the way that the camera controls, and he does a great deal of the weapon and also the gear balancing for the game. And in this interview that we got today, he kind of went over some of the new things that we can expect to see change. The thing is, though, is that it was only just an interview. There was no gameplay. I have no footage of anything that he was talking about, but still, there is some pretty significant stuff in there that's going to change the game quite a bit, so I wanted to share it nonetheless, and I'll do some visual stuff on the screen so you can maybe follow it a bit better. So, the two major topics that we talked about was first up the new weapon system and the rework to how the talents will work. And also, he talked a little bit about the exotic weapons and gear system that we'll see for the Division 2. And we're going to start off with the weapon talent system, because I think that's where the biggest changes are coming. Just like in the Division 1, purple weapons in the Division 2 will have 2 talents, and high-end weapons will have 3 talents, unlike we saw in the footage, in the gameplay footage from E3. But in the Division 2, the talents themselves, the whole system will be changed up quite a bit. You cannot just roll any talent into any slot anymore. What I mean by that is that, for example, in the Division 1, you could have responsive in the first slot, in the second slot, or in the last slot. You could have any talent anywhere, apart from exotic weapons, of course, but we're talking about normal weapons right now. In the Division 2, each of those 3 talent slots kinda has their own pool of talents that they can roll. The first slot of talents is called, these are not the official names, by the way, but these are the names that Thailander gave us. But the first slot is the active talent slot. The second slot is the weapon handling slot, and then the last slot is the holstered slot. Now, in the first one, we can expect to see talents that are more active to the gameplay that we know from the E3 demo as well. Examples are 15% more damage to targets that are on fire, 20% more damage after reloading, 5% more critical hit chance per bullet that you land. And these kind of talents, they're going to fall into that first category, and they're also going to show up on the screen under the player's health bar as an active buff, or next to their weapon, which is that little green thing that you've been seeing in the gameplay. Then, the second category, the handling slot, so to speak, here you can expect to see talents that increase weapon handling, such as accuracy, stability, optimal range. So expect talents similar to accurate, stable, balanced. Maybe something that gives you more reload speed. I'm not sure if that falls into that category as well. But those are the kind of talents that you can expect to see there. And then the last slot is the holstered slot, so to speak. And this is where you will get a talent that will not be active when you're shooting the weapon, but when the weapon is holstered, so when you're not using the weapon, I guess. It is not clear what kind of talents can roll here. Maybe it's just stat boosts like 8% more damage or 15% more accuracy. Not sure what can roll here, that's not confirmed yet. But it was confirmed that both primary weapons and sidearms have this. So at the very least, you'll always be running around with 4 talents in total, because you get 2 from the main gun that you're using, then 1 from the last slot from the other primary weapon that you have, and then also 1 from the sidearm. So it's sort of like an enhanced version of Alpha Bridge. Now, after the state of the game, I also contacted Thailander on Twitter, and I asked him if the talent in the holstered slot would only be active when the weapon is holstered, or also when you're using the weapon. And the reply was that it has not been decided yet, and that things are still being tested. So yeah, either we have 4 talents per weapon or 5 talents per weapon, depending on what route they decide to go with. Personally, I can't really say which one I would prefer, because it's really hard to say that without knowing what kind of talents can roll in this last holstered slot. But I think I would prefer having 5 slightly weaker talents compared to 4 stronger ones, because I feel like 5 slightly weaker talents gives you a little more build diversity, a little more freedom. It makes it a little bit harder to get the perfect build as well, so to speak. And it would also make it a bit easier for newer players to understand, because they might not know that the last talent on their gun isn't active when you're using it. It could be a little bit confusing, but really, we gotta wait and see more until we really want to talk about this. Then, the second new thing that was mentioned during this interview is the change to exotic gear. So, what's new? Well, first up, they plan on making both exotic weapons and exotic gear a lot more powerful. not just some high-end with a different tint, a different skin, and then a very niche talent. But because exotics will be so powerful, players will only be limited to one exotic gear piece per build and one exotic weapon. So that means that you can't really run around with full exotic gear anymore or with triple exotic weapons. You're gonna have to choose what you want to go with. Now, is this good or is this bad? I think that's really impossible to say right now, given how little we actually know about the gearing system. I mean, we have brand sets that are coming to the Division 2. We have gear sets on top of that. We have high-end items that can come with 2 talents. Maybe even more, I don't know. It seems like we can stack the same type of talents on different gear pieces. How is this all going to work and interact with the exotic items? No idea. They have been very tight-lipped about all of this. So making exotic items more powerful, that's nice, I guess, but no way of knowing yet how this is going to affect the gearing game. The rest that I talked about in the interview is stuff that we already know from the article that was released 2 weeks ago, and then also from the E3 footage, so I'm not going to go over that all again, and I'm just going to end the video here. Now, as you might have noticed, I've been working on some new graphics for the channel meanwhile. New logo, intro, banner, etc, etc. It's not all done yet, but let me know what you think about it. Some feedback is always good to get, and that's gonna be it. So I will see you guys later, or like they say in the Netherlands, zie je later.